When I first played Utawarerumono Mask of Deception, I fell in love with it immediately. The characters were funny and witty, the story was incredibly engaging and very lore-heavy, and the art was nothing short of being beautiful. What started off as one of my favorite games has now become one of my favorite franchises. Utawarerumono Zan is a weird take on the franchise. For one, it's a retelling of Mask of Deception, which is only a couple of years old, and two, while every other entry was an SRPG, this one is more of a Musou title. As Zan is more of an action-oriented title, some interesting sacrifices have been made in regards to its storytelling. This more or less decides to speed through any story section that it might not feel important enough to really talk about. So, while character introduction scenes would be played out in a visual novel setting, everything else would just be a Cliff Notes narrated slideshow. The game will just breeze through any information, and if you weren't paying attention, well, that's too bad. Overall, this change is probably the best they could do considering Mask of Deception's about 30 to 40 hours, and probably a good 80% of that was actually a big story focus. Here though, the game can be beaten in maybe 5 or 6 hours, and a lot of it's been cut out for the sake of getting right back into the action, and for a story like this, I just can't really agree with that. In regards to everything else, there isn't that much of an issue. The actual content of the game is pretty decent. While I said the story can be beaten in about 5 to 6 hours, each mission can be replayed to beat your sub-missions that will be available, and then there are free missions and online missions to boot. In online mode, the gameplay changes slightly in that you can't change between characters like you can in the offline modes, which does make sense. And the AI party members are pretty decent both online and offline. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find the parties, so I could not test the netcode. Thankfully, the missions can still be played by oneself, but you still need to be connected to PSN for it all to work. Zan's gameplay is a lot of fun. You essentially have a normal attack, a strong attack, and a special attack. Because of this, the game's combo system isn't all that deep. You mainly just mash square, and for feeling a little bit spicy, press triangle or circle during it to change the combo a little. When using your special moves, a ring will appear. If you fill it up at the precise moment, the move will get some bonuses like healing more, or not having the move cost as much zeal. Even though I just said the game's combat isn't all that deep, the attack animations are really nice to look at. No matter how many times I did the same combo, they were certainly a treat to behold. Your stats are increased in a typical way of leveling up and spending points on a given stat to give it an extra boost. You can equip a scroll to boost your stats or grant buffs as well. These scrolls can be found outside of the missions in the story mode and can be gotten in shops. Unfortunately, the scrolls you get are locked behind a gacha mechanic, but it's okay because everyone can equip the same scrolls and duplicates increase the scroll's power, so it's not that big of a deal. Graphically, the game is gorgeous, or at least the character models are. The environments are something I have a bit of a bone to pick with. If there was a Vita version of this game that didn't come to the West, it would explain why, or at least excuse why, some of these levels are so small. Granted, the game wants to mirror the levels that were featured in Mask of Deception, which is fine no doubt. But for it to be a Musou game and have everything feel claustrophobic, it just doesn't work out in that sense. In the end, I'm of two minds about this game, as the gameplay itself is absolutely great, it's just the story is best told in its original visual novel format. If the entire game was as well crafted as the final cutscene, and the story was actually allowed to breathe and not be strangled to get things moving again, this game as a whole would have been absolutely marvelous. Unfortunately, I don't like this game as much because I know what's missing and what's been skipped over that makes this all the lesser. Even if I didn't play Mask of Deception beforehand, with how botched together everything is, it just feels like a really big mess. And that does it for our review of Utawarerumono Zan. If you have any questions or comments about the review or the game itself, by all means leave them down in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you guys on this. Also, if you're new to my channel, finding out for the first time through this review, hey, be sure to subscribe for future reviews, commentaries, let's plays, and more. I'd also like to thank all of my patrons on Patreon and YouTube members for making today's review possible. And as always everyone, thanks for watching.